Hey friends, how are you? So, welcome to our learning day where we are doing our book club. And the book that we are doing is Radical Candor. And my great friend, Angela Harkins, who I just admire and love, is here to join us. And she offered to weigh in on Radical Candor. So, hi, Angela.
Hi, how are you this morning?
Good. So first of all, I want to set the stage for like what a dynamo you are. Yesterday you were where?
I was in Worcester, DC Center at a Crush It in Real Estate event put on by Anthony Lamacchia. But
Yeah.
we weren't using his last name yesterday because we had agents from everywhere there. So it was just Anthony censored. His last name was actually had a little spot over it that said censored. It was really funny.
I love that because I have that
Yeah.
same issue with my school, right? So
Mhm.
is I try to take it. So we changed the names a long time ago, so they were different names from the real estate company and the school, and then we actually physically moved them for that same for part of the same reason.
It just
So
works.
anyway, tell me your first, like, give me one sentence you thought about radical candor.
Well, at first, I'm glad I read the updated book because the forward on it or the first chapter on it where she kind of backtracked on some of the things that she said throughout the book made me
Yeah.
happy because I think if I had read it without that, I would not have liked it. I would have thought it was too no, I was going to say I would have thought it was too harsh, but you know what? I think it depends on who's reading the book because
Mhm.
our hearts are basically kind and we don't want to hurt people, we
Yep.
probably would have taken it the way she meant it. But I think there are some other people out there that wanted to use radical candor as an excuse to berate people or to take them down. And that's what she was correcting in my mind. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So so even the name Radical Candor, which is kind of what she started with when she was doing the preface there, the idea of radical candor to me like frightens the crap out of me. And I have to be honest, like I reading this book, I felt so vulnerable and in fear, because I felt like I don't know if I can do this. Like I don't know if I can be radically candid. And and one of my biggest issues with these past few years has been like I feel like there's been a lot of doors that have been opened to people being like I think, and I'm going to just use some of her words because I thought it was pretty cool. Is the what is the aggressive one she said? I'm just trying to find it. Uh, is the obnoxious aggression, and
Yes.
in the four types, and I feel like people have latched onto that obnoxious aggression, and I feel fear around that. So I did like that she kind of walked it back a little, but honestly, I felt kind of bad because I was like, if she's out there saying here's how to do radical candor. I almost just said radical aggression, radical candor. And for all of you out there who can't be candid with people or are afraid of it, or you're afraid of hurting someone's feelings, here are some tools to actually do it. And then you've got the obnoxious aggressive people just totally tormenting her on it, and cartoons being made and the parodies on it. And I felt like that was, it's almost like, well, thank you, I'm trying.
But her new name, Compassionate Candor, was just so much more our speed. It was is what what we would do and what we would have done anyway,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I love the compassionate candor. I did love, and I think what were the two like the north and the south or whatever on her drawing. It was compassionate. Let me put my glasses on because I made a couple notes. It
Okay.
was caring personally and challenging directly, right?
Mm.
And I thought to myself that was so cool because, as leaders, I don't think many of us become leaders in order to be that aggressive, obnoxious person. I think we
No,
become leaders, most of us, because we care personally about whatever group of people it is that we are working with.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Yep. So I mean, so far I'm loving the book, taking some ideas from it and some other ideas, maybe just pushing off a little bit. But it does make you realize, especially her example where it's more painful for everybody if you're not direct with somebody, if you let
Yes.
it keep going on in not a destructive way, but in a non-healthy way, and you don't correct the behavior, it doesn't help anybody, especially in the business place. I think you could take that for any situation.
Right.
You have to.
And I think about that because I feel like if there was one of my shortcomings, that might be it, that I'm afraid to speak up. Right.
Mhm,
And then if I walk it through, like, why am I afraid? And it is
mhm,
because I'm going to hurt their feelings, because they're going to be mad, because they're not going to like me anymore or whatever. Like, so I go through all these things. And what happens to that, Angela, is it becomes all about me and nothing about the situation.
right.
And, like my daughters have called me on this several times and they're like, stop making it all about you, and let's get back to the task at hand. And I'm like, but no, I'm so sensitive, like, and for me, like this book called me to the carpet on that.
Yeah. Yep, I can absolutely see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that part. And then the other thing that like stood out at me, back to my obnoxious, aggressive people, is that she said that, ironically, or not for nothing, but so yes, this caring, compassionate candor is the number one way of communicating and getting effective results and creating that environment and that culture. But the second most effective way is by being a jackass. And that, like, the results are great from that. And so, like, that whole hardo type thing is that, that's second in line, and I was like, whoa, like,
Mhm.
and I mean, we must know this because we can see it, like, in our nation at times, and we can see it in a lot of cult groups, and to know, like, that is, and that almost felt like, to me, Angela, was like the the reason why we have to practice this is because we want to transition that culture.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I didn't make notes because I didn't know we were doing this live. Sorry.
I know. She's like, you guys, she was saying like 5 minutes before, and I said, okay, we're gonna go live. She goes, wait, what?
I thought we
She's
were
like, I
just gonna
thought
have a
we were in a
conversation, a
little
little
book
book,
club.
but that's
And
okay.
it's, well, she's, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Everyone has a different approach, right? So you take from the book what I guess the take from the book is we have to do something. We have to make some changes. We don't want to have, people's behavior or we want to make sure that people's behaviors or work gets corrected before it goes on, and then they think that that's okay, right? We want to make the change. And depending on how radical or compassionate or obnoxious you are, I mean, it's kind of your personality. And then as long as you recognize it, make the shift. Maybe if we're too compassionate, maybe we need to make the shift a little bit to be a little more radical so that they understand. And I guess what she's saying too is just don't beat around the bush all the time. Don't beat around the bush. Just tell somebody. Tell them in a
Or
kind, compassionate way as much as you can. But remember the example. I won't be able to quote it exactly. Remember the example of when she tried to tell the woman that she kept saying "huh" or
yeah,
in their
yeah,
presentation, and then the woman was like not hearing her, and finally she just had to say, "Look, you need a speech coach because you keep saying it. And it sounded stupid. Not you sounded stupid, but it sounded stupid." And then the
yeah.
woman was like, "Oh, I get it now." She went to one or two speech classes. It catapulted her career because then she wasn't, saying during all her presentations. That was something that was said for the good of the person, but she wasn't hearing it. She had to be radical, right? To get it through.
Yeah, and I loved that example too, because that really resonated with me.
Mhm.
And it was, I want to say, in Google, and it was Sheryl Sandberg who was the leader, and a woman who had this great presentation, so smart, so intelligent, so awesome. And so as the takeaway, she was leaving and she felt pretty good about it. And Cheryl pulled her aside and said that, and she again said, like, the great content and that. She said, um, but you said a lot.
Right.
And the woman kind of brushed it off. And the way she talked about it was like she was floating her hands, like, like, yeah. So when I said, and then my thought, like, when she was saying that was, I'm like, physically, I think about, like, when we put, like, our emotions put barriers from the other person. And what she was doing with her hand gestures when she said, oh, yeah, maybe I said a lot. I don't know. I do that a lot. And she just kind of like, and she said she was like
Blowing her
flicking
up.
her away, right? Or
Mhm.
something. And so Cheryl just pulled her, like, almost, and I could just see it, like, coming in close, pulling her close and saying, Angela, you are so smart. You are You're brilliant. And that was a brilliant presentation. You say a lot. And when you say it sounds stupid.
Right.
Right. So she also used like her positioning to like deliver the message.
Yeah.
And then the woman was like, oh, I
But
get it.
did she give her all those compliments at the beginning? I'm feeling like she didn't. I may have
She
to go
did.
back.
She complimented the presentation. I
Okay.
think, but again, she said the whole entire transaction took
Yeah.
less than 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So if you look at the piece on that, it was, and I think she set the stage to say it is you are smart and
Yeah.
you sound stupid, you know. So I think that she did. But that does bring me to something that I do a lot, which I call a shit sandwich. Is that if I know this, that may be the name of my book. Here's your shit sandwich. But what it is you start with something positive, you deliver the shit, and then you finish with something positive.
Mhm.
And I know it's not a good idea. I have trouble giving that positive feedback or that positive negative feedback. And I but one thing this book is showing me again is that if I want to be as effective as I want to be, that is what I have to do.
Yeah. With kindness.
With, of course, and with compassion. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, and it doesn't say this, but I feel like that is not going to get lost. People
Right.
are always going to feel compassion,
Mhm.
right? It's my fear that's getting in the way of giving that candor.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm. What else? So anything else jump out at you at the beginning, or anything that
The
other
first
than
2
that piece?
chapters? No. No, that I think that was pretty much the gist of the first 2 chapters. It was I
Yes.
enjoy the book very much. Yeah, I would
What
recommend.
I Yeah, and what I wanna do is I don't wanna jump into, like, boom, I want it like, she talks about that's coming up, and I can't wait for it, is, like, creating that culture and
Mhm.
setting the stage for it, and the language you have about how to start it, because that's where I'm like, "All right," because we just can't start going from being freaking wishy-washy, doormat to, like, badass sorceress, delivering all of my candid remarks, So I feel like there should be a warning on this book, like, just don't jump in and start everything from the first, like, as we identify it.
And I
Right,
think a
so I
lot of
can't go
people
back.
did. I think a lot of people did when they read the first one based on her how she had to come back and,
and
redo that
and
forward,
reframe it. Yeah.
frame it for
Yeah,
shit.
that's, and again, back to the obnoxious aggressive people. Like, if I have an obnoxious, and I really don't, but if I did have that obnoxious aggressive like streak, I'd be like, game on, you know. So
I feel like those type of people already had the game on, and they just used this as an excuse for that. An excuse to
well,
be mean, to be too candid, and maybe cruel in some cases. She
and
must have
honestly,
she must have had an awful lot of flack to go in and rewrite that.
yeah, 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 100%. I agree with that. And I was just looking at some, the book, and like, I guess like the afterward talks about some of the transitions again. And so I don't know, I'm really looking forward to it. One thing I got to say candidly is the words are so freaking small. Like, I brought it down to read on my bike, right? And again, with my eyesight, I'm like, I could not get the words. And so I need to get like the large print edition.
Well, I have to be honest. I've been listening to it because I drive all day long, so I listen to it while I'm in my car. Yeah,
You know what? I wonder if I bought it on Audible too. I should do that because
that's what I did.
I was like, the words are tiny. They're like 8 point.
Oh, wow.
And so then last night I'm reading, I think I sent you a picture of me, and I had like a flashlight on my head, my glasses on, and because my house is not really bright, like there's not a lot of bright lights. And where I wanted to sit, there's almost no lights. So
Yeah.
I'm like with my glasses on and with my headlamp on, and I'm reading, trying to like, and it was the end of the day, so my eyesight's even worse. And I felt like I was a beauty queen.
You still looked adorable.
Maybe I'll share with everybody. All right, guys, I want to tell you, Angela, you have some comments, and it says you are doing a great job.
Oh,
And so you have some fangirls out there. I
thank
don't know
you.
who it is though, because it's on Facebook. So when you get to Facebook later, we'll see who it was.
Okay.
All right, and as I promised, we would keep it under 10, and it's 14, so I guess we're done. Thank you so much for coming. It's so awesome to see you, and let's keep on reading, girl.
All right. See you next week.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.